Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Sunday of When Black Women Gather. My name is Helen Higginbotham. I am the founder of When Black Women Gather. And today I'm joined with Linda, Professor Linda Carter. Everybody knows Linda. Y'all love her, our favorite professor. And our guest is Dr. Carlton Payne. Hi, Dr. Payne.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Linda.
I'm here.
Okay, so today we are honored to have Dr. Payne. He is a psychologist with who works in um, the Pennsylvania prison system, and he's been on here briefly with us before, but today he's a featured guest, and he's going to talk to us about what's going on in the prison. We're calling the session "The System of Prisons: Breaking the Chain and Confronting the Pain." We're going to talk about it from the pipeline. We talk about the cradle, the pipeline to what is the pipeline to cradle?
Third
Cradle to
third grade in
pipeline.
prison pipeline.
Yeah.
Cradle to prison pipeline.
Right.
Okay, thank you. And
I
we
thought
think
it was
that is,
cradle to the grave.
well,
Yeah.
sometimes it is. But yeah, so there's a pipeline where there are, our boys especially are identified in like second and third grade, and they're prepped to go to, they decide how many prison cells they're going to need by how many black boys are in second and third grade, which is incredible. And we know what's happening now. So we're going to talk about that. And, I used to work in the prison, so I'll share some of that with you. And it'll be interesting to talk with Dr. Payne to see how much has changed because I worked in the prison in the 80s. In a male prison in New Jersey. So it was interesting. So let me just say a little bit about Dr. Payne. And thank you again, Dr. Payne, for coming. And Linda and I will back off and give you the screen, and then you can take it from there. And then we'll come back on and entertain conversation and questions. School to prison pipeline. Thank you. Thank you, Dolores Cox. She's corrected us. Okay, so Dr. Payne is the first African American chief psychologist in the history of the Philadelphia prison system. He is also the first African American psychologist of that establishment. He earned his BA at LaSalle University, for those of you who are in the Philly area. He has, oops, I'm sorry. Um, he got a master's at Villanova and a PhD at Temple, all in psychology. He is the assistant director of workshop for teens, chairman of the Association of Black Psychologists, and the former director of behavioral health compliance for PPS. He is an adjunct professor of psychology at University of Pennsylvania Newman College. You're at Widener as well, right?
Yes.
Are you at Widener? Yeah, that's what
Adjuncts
I
tend to
thought.
move around to different colleges.
Okay, so you were at Camden County at some point.
Yeah, that's where I got my start. My first teaching class was at Camden County.
A
Yeah.
lot of people on this call will be from Jersey, and
Oh,
I
I
grew
see.
up right outside. Yeah, so that's cool. So he supervised field placement for students at Bryn Mawr, Spelman, Bucknell, Chestnut Hill College, St. Joe's University, and he is a member of Delta Kappa Phi, which is a National Honor Society of Academic Excellence. He has received 5 commendations from the city of Philadelphia for distinction and performance of duty. And he is a member of the NCC, I don't know what that stands for, NCCHC, Accreditation Board for the Philadelphia Prisons. Um, yeah, so, and he's been, like I said, he's been with us before. You can tell us what that stands for, Dr.
It's
Payne.
the
What is that
national
NC?
it's the National Healthcare Accreditation Board, and what they do is they come in and they look at whether you have enough facilities for your mental health patients. You have to have it's the stipulated rule. You have to have at least one towel for every patient. You have to have a fire escape plan. You have to have enough bathroom facilities. So they come in and they check out the prisons. Sometimes prisons are lacking in those things, so they come in and they make sure that you have all those things for your inmates. And if
Yeah,
you do,
he's
they
been
give you pay.
recognized for outstanding professional accomplishments, proficiency initiatives, and twice he has been the Employee of the Year. So again, we're happy to have you with us,
Thank
and
you.
Let,
we are going to turn it over to you to
let,
share with us whatever information you want us to have. And I think many of us have family, friends. Some of us ourselves have been involved in the penal system. So I would expect that we're going to have an engaging conversation. So it's all
Before
on you for,
before
yes.
he starts, only because Dr. Payne and I talked yesterday briefly about something I wanted to start with. If it's okay with you, Dr. Payne, where we
Sure.
started. Okay, because I think that may help flow into it. Not help, but just add to it. As for me, I actually did I did a prison clinic at Rikers, and I also did volunteer work at Royal State Prison my first year in college. And I work with reentry programs, and a lot of people in prison in this community came out of my community in New Jersey. So anyway, I wanted to start with this because a lot of people don't know this, and Dr. Payne could fill it in. There was a meeting in Urbana, Illinois, in the late '60s, and that meeting, everyone who had been involved in any capacity building military installations was attending this meeting, whether it's contractors, architects, people who made concrete, people who constructed fences, whoever was involved in the building military bases. We don't know, we got about 850 military bases around the country. And if we, like in New Jersey, we have Fort Dix, they usually have a lot of jobs around different military bases. Well, they decided they were no longer building military bases. They're going to build prisons. Not only were they going to build prisons, they had already identified who the population was going to be in prison. They
Right.
hear what I'm saying? They had identified the population. And if you listen to some of the challenges that are occurring in prison systems around, you know that this was all planned. Now, they went from public prisons to private prisons. And now, what would you see in terms of the conversation some of us had before you guys started? You have the private detention centers. So it was an evolution from who's going to be in the prisons to the private prisons. So there's a whole lot of money in that, to the detention centers, and there's a whole lot of money in that. So, for the detention centers, which is not the focus, but it really has some play here. Detention centers actually, if you know anything about immigration, initially it was not criminal, it was administrative, which means assuming anybody really cared, if you got picked up, the longest you would stay would be from, maybe if you got picked up on a Friday, you'd be out by Monday. That was one thing. And then people realized it's a whole lot of money in detention. So the laws around immigration stopped. That's part of identifying the population. And then afterwards, and if you paid attention to the market, I think either the Thursday or Friday before Trump was elected president, the stock for private prisons went way off the chart because they already knew that they had been planning for doing what they're doing now some time ago. So this is, this whole thing. Go back and look at, for those who live in urban areas or are familiar with urban areas, you know that the heroin came in, compliments of the FBI and organized crime. Some of it came in through the military because military transport planes weren't checked. And then later the crack. And if you know anything about the crack, you know the CIA was actually funding the Mujahideens, as some of you know from 9/11 as the Mujahideen. I can't think of their name right now, but the individuals who were supposed to be involved. And CIA was actually bringing the crack into our neighborhoods. It was funding the Mujahideen against the Soviet Union. For those of you old enough, you know that in the 1980s, the Soviet Union collapsed. It's now only Russia as a result of it. They had bread lines because they spent so much money on the military. There was no money for the people, and they were having bread lines. That money was actually laundered through Honduras, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Guatemala, and a host of other Central and South American countries that has led to, I think this is the third generation of people coming from those areas. And so, a lot of us see the immigration problem, but we don't know that this is connected to the crack that was in our neighborhoods. So on that note, Dr. Payne, I hope, I guess, I've
Okay,
provided
that was a lot,
information.
Linda. That was a lot. And I can
Well,
tell you that back in the 80s, when I was in the prison, that's when they started this whole privatization of prisons. It was called Corrections, CCA,
Yeah, and G
Corrections
was it
Corporations of America.
right,
So,
mhm.
exactly.
right. And we know that the prisons are really an extension of the slave plantation. So, on that note, I'm going to remove Linda and I and turn
Yeah,
it over to you, Dr. Payne. Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Linda and both you and Helen both for having me here. It really feels really good to have somebody that wants to invite me to this kind of forum. I always like to start off, especially with my students, telling you a little bit about myself. Okay, and like you read, I went to LaSalle University for my bachelor's degree, Villanova University for my master's, and Temple University for my PhD. Now, I was kind of a bright kid coming up, so I won a scholarship to go to LaSalle. And at 6'4", tall and skinny, I was a lot skinnier than I am now. Okay, so I was a typically 6'4", tall and skinny, walking around the halls of LaSalle. What was the question I got every day in the hallway? Are you on the basketball team? And I said, no, I'm not on the doggone basketball team. But that's what I would get. I got so much pressure from my classmates that I decided to try out for the basketball team. Right? Now, I mean, I wasn't a basketball player, but I tried it anyway. Now, on the team was this guy named Bob. And Bob was 7 foot 3 inches tall. Huge, huge man. But Bob was uncoordinated. He couldn't shoot, couldn't dribble, he couldn't do anything. Throw the ball hit him in the face. But Bob played 4 years, and we were in NCCHC Division One. He played 4 years at a major university. He got drafted sight unseen by the Boston Celtics. Okay. And after one day of practice, they gave Bob $160,000. This is no money for the NBA to go home and never touch a basketball again. He was that bad. I say that to say this. When I first started at the prison, it was this other kid, about 20 years old, coming down the hall toward me, 7 feet tall in prison uniform. And I grabbed him and took him into my office. I said, what are you doing in prison? And he said that he wanted to be a thug and he wanted to be a criminal. I said, you're 7 feet tall. He said, but so what? And I told him about Bob. I said, you could just get paid for being 7 feet tall. I still know the coach on the team. So you could he's and this is what he did. He robbed a woman at a ATM. He put a stocking mask over his face. And anybody remember the 8 ball jackets? They were real. Everybody liked the 8 ball jacket. He turned it inside out and he put a stocking mask over his face and he robbed the woman at the ATM. Then as he left, he took the mask off and threw it in the trash and turned the jacket around the right way. The police picked him up and just threw him in the car. And he said, Dr. Payne, I'm going to beat, and that's how the inmates talking, you know this. He says, I'm going to beat this case because they said the guy was wearing a mask. How would they know it was me? I said, you're 7 feet tall. He didn't see himself. He didn't know who he was. So I always ask my audiences and the people that are watching, what about you at 7 feet tall that you don't even see? Everybody has something. So I want you to do a little self-examination. Me being a psychologist, I want you to be a little some self-examination today and find out what is it about you that you can do that nobody else can do. And you were placed on this planet for a reason, and you are unique, and you have something totally different than everybody else. What about you at 7 feet tall that you don't even see? Now, okay, that's how I like to begin. I want to look at what I do as a psychologist. All right, we do multiple things. First, psych testing, personality, intelligence, educational achievement, vocational aptitude, learning disabilities, mental retardation. We also do women's issues because the women are the fastest growing group in the prison system. We'll talk about that later on. Juvenile treatment, trauma reduction, crisis intervention, health psychology, and um, mental health counseling. Okay. Now, I also have a private practice because my thing was I started to see a lot of young African American males coming into the prison system. Okay. Over and over again. And they had this colloquial term, a black guy in a blue shirt. And they used to get on my nerves. I'm going to do something to keep these young men from coming in here. So my private practice is a lot of African American young males because they don't have that male. I noticed that working in the prison as the psychologist and then the chief psychologist, they need that African American male influence. They never really had that man listen to them or talk to them or advise them. So sometimes I would just walk right into the cell and sit down. They never had that before. But I said, I'm from the same neighborhood as you, so you don't scare me. Sit down and tell me what's going on, and you'd be surprised at what comes out, what our young men and women are carrying around inside of them. And if you can kind of get to those inner things, those inner feelings, those inner thoughts, it dictates behavior. I want to share a psychological edict. Beliefs and behavior tie together like an arm and a hand. If a lot of times we try to in the society try to attack the behavior. We have more cops, we have more cameras, we have more police. It does absolutely nothing because it's an old saying. Building more prisons to end crime is like digging more graves to end cancer. It's not going to do any good. Okay. Focus on the belief system and you change the behavior. What does a person believe? And you'll be surprised at what a lot of the inmates believe. Okay, what their belief system is, and some of you probably are from the neighborhoods like where I came from, and you have to listen to what they believe. All right, number one, a man isn't a man until he's been to prison. I don't know if you ever heard that one, but I've heard that one multiple times. I came here and I was a boy, and it made me a man. The average inmate nationwide is between, and a lot of people don't know this, their age is between 18 and 24 years old. So they're young people, you know? And so, and guess what the average age of a person in the military? 18 to 24. Okay. The average age a person becomes a father for the first time, 18 to 24. And what's the average age of people on college campus? 18 to 24. Is that a coincidence? Or is there a pattern here? That's where people kind of move. They make decisions in their lives and they move from point A to point B. And so that's a very important area in a young man's life. Now, the women tended to be older. The women were averaging 35, 36 years old. Because I hate to say it, and for you ladies who are here, women tend to mature faster than men. You see it even today. I don't know if you have people that people in your family there, they get older, but they don't mature, you know? And so that's one of the issues working with prison inmates. They don't know what a man does, how they had this different code for what a man is. So you're actually doing therapy and you're doing treatment in that environment, and it's a captive audience. Now, what I do is examine strengths and weaknesses. What are your strengths? A lot of people don't know their strengths. I want to give you a little vulnerabilities. What are your vulnerabilities? Now, right now, my nephew is on a nuclear submarine. Okay, he's in the Navy. And what happens is the submarine goes off the coast of some country, sinks down under the water, and stays under the water for 6 months. Could you do that? Dr. Payne couldn't do that. Okay, I got to see the sun here. So, it's important to know your strengths and know your vulnerabilities. And a lot of people are, especially the enemies, are not honest about their vulnerabilities. They can do anything. They can win the slam dunk contest. They can climb Mount Everest. They can do in their minds. And so the key is to get them to be honest with yourself, to know your strengths and know your vulnerabilities. And so that's really what I do, working with the enemies. Now. Here's a question. 1930, only 20% of the inmates in the American prison system were African American. What does that tell you? 60% of the prisons of the inmates were Caucasians. And if you go back and look at some of the old movies, the George Raft and the guys with the black and white striped suits, they were Caucasian guys. So 1994. So the first prison, and I hate, and since I live not far from Philadelphia, I hate to say this, but the first prison in the United States was built in 1683. Of all places, guess where? Philadelphia. Okay. And it held seven, it's called the Old North Jail. And it held seven prisoners. They call them miscreants and pickpockets. From 1683 to 1994, the prison population went from 7 to 1 million. If you go back and look at Time Magazine and Newsweek, you'll be saying, and all these articles are in there. This can't go on. Why do we lock up so many of our Americans? All right, and that's when the population started becoming African American. 1994, like I said, it was a low percentage, 20% of Black people in 1930. In 1994, 48% of the prison population of this country were Black men. What does that tell you? So we're locking up our people. So it took 311 years to get from 7 to 1 million people in prison. From 1994 in June to 2004 in June, we went from 1 million to 2 million. Can you imagine locking up 2 million people in this country? Okay. And so, and then again, it was still 48%, almost 50% of the population in prison were Black men. And it was when Linda was talking about the war on drugs was a real key to that. So it's about 1.8 million now. The numbers are dropping because I think a lot of our people are being starting to understand what this is. In Philadelphia, we get $125 per day for every inmate. Okay. What are they doing that's costs $125 a day? Nothing. That money is going somewhere and it goes to somebody's pocket. And and so you get 125 a day for 1.8 million inmates nationwide. So it's is a moneymaker. And so and that's why private prisons are really taking over. So 1.8 million people in prison in this country. Now we have one of the lowest populations in the world, but we lock people up at the highest rate of any other country in the world. Okay, so that lets you know it's money. So my job as the first black psychologist is to take a whole different approach. If you're a black person and you're going into a different environment, if you don't bring something different to the table, then you're wasting your time. And
Hmm.
so I went in. I was raised in North Philly, and a lot of the guys I grew up with, when I came into the building, they knew me. Hey, Payne, what's up? I said, no.
Hmm.
And so I said I knew I had to do something different. You know, I thought you were in the army. I didn't know you were here. And then a lot of guys I grew up with were there. So I kind of took began new programs, new counseling techniques, new approaches because I wanted to see why one group was able to succeed and why another group was not. You know, and you never guess what I came up with. The answer is it's called efficacy, the belief in your own abilities to perform behaviors that result in desired outcomes. If you believe, and there it is again, the belief system dictates the behavior. If you can believe that it can be done, then you can do it. And a lot of times their belief system was messed up. They didn't really believe that they could make it out of the neighborhood. They didn't realize believe that they could make something of themselves, and that's why a lot of this comes from. And what Linda was saying, a lot of times our people are being programmed to believe a certain thing. You saw on my resume that I work with workshop for teens, and I had 20 young people who are getting ready to go to college, and I'll never forget this. They were going to go to college, and I asked them a question. You are you have a spot in a university or college, and you're playing this Caucasian guy, same height, same weight, same size as you, one on one. The first one that scores 10 baskets gets the college spot. Can you do it? Everybody in the room raised their hand. They all do it. I said, okay. Same exact scenario. Caucasian guy, same age, same height, same weight as you. Okay. But you have to defeat him in a test of English, math, science, and social studies. How many of you think you could do it? Only one person raised their hand. What does it tell you? That we are being programmed to think that we are somehow less. And we, as professionals, mental health professionals, must change that belief system, must change that attitude, must change that thought pattern. And so that's basically what I do as a psychologist in the prison system. I provide a role model and I work on the mental health improvement of the inmates. I know I'm a professor, so I tend to go long, so thank you. So
Oh, that was great. That
okay.
was great.
I want to see if
Thank
you have
you.
any questions.
Um, gonna add Linda and I back in and we can talk. So I know, like I said, I worked in the prison. It was back in the 80s, and I worked in minimum security. So what level of security is the prison that you work in?
Well, what happens is they had different areas for different levels of security. And as a chief psychologist, I worked in all there's 5 different jails, 5 different levels of security, and the women's prison. So I had free reign to go in any of the areas. And believe it or not, the high security, they called it the drama unit. Their high security units, the homicides, they were actually calmer than the other the other areas of the prison, because when it's uncertainty, there's chaos. But when this person knows they're being sentenced and knowing where they're going and know how long they're going to be in that situation, they tend to calm down. It's a psychological thing, but it's very interesting. So the guys who had long sentences tended to be calmer. Matter of fact, it was something that the wardens used to do. If the other group unit was messing up, they would take one of the lifers and bring him over to sit with them. And the fact that he had nothing to lose, and he was calm, it would calm the whole unit down. 63 men on one unit with one lifer. And so it's an interesting phenomenon. You know, the lifers tended to be older, they tend to be more settled, they tend to be more comfortable with themselves, and they would impact upon the other people. So it's
Yeah.
a study in mental health and a study in the human mind, how it works.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between a county jail and a state prison. County
Yeah.
jail is free for all, and it's you're right. It's a lot of anxiety, people not knowing how long they're going to be there, and just too many uncertainties. So it's a difference.
A lot of
So I
bravado, a
went
lot of chest thumping. The women would tend to form families, which was
yes,
interesting. They would have a one woman that was kind of a tough woman. She would be the husband. They have a softer woman. She would be and then a child looking one. She would be the kid. They would do things as a family. The men tended to form gangs. You know, we're the one called themselves the flow thugs. They lived on the basement level, so they were the floor thugs. And they dominated the people on the upper levels. So it's a whole different way of thinking.
right,
Interestingly, what I said about thinking patterns. Not one thing about in that environment, you learn a lot about human behavior. And you learn about the best way to learn about human behavior is to learn about yourself and to learn about the people around you. Okay. How nobody really think of themselves as a bad guy. So I wanted to let you know how some of the inmates thought. Um, I break into people's cars because sometimes people leave money in there. And I figured that's my money because if they needed it, it wouldn't be in their car, it'd be in their pocket. So since they don't need it and I do, that's my money. So that's why I bring it to their car. It's logical, and it's a total different way of thinking. Yeah. Um,
yes, it is.
okay.
I have to tell you though, I was always impressed with the level of creativity. So you have these people who are confined day to day, and the things that I would see that they were able to do, whether with their hands, with their right, they created they wrote stories, they made all kinds of, objects and jewelry and hooch.
And
Hooch
who
was the drink, but just creative as hell. And I spoke with women in New Jersey in the New Jersey prison system maybe about 3 years ago now, and my speech was called to reimagine yourself, because now, back then I used to think if these guys could only understand that this stuff that you're doing here in the prison, you can do on the outside and be very successful on
it
your
would
on
be
your own
very
terms.
successful because it's unique and it's creative,
Yeah,
And you can focus
yeah,
on this. You could focus on changing some issues out. They call it out in the world. Out in the world, you could change some. But there it is again, that thought pattern. I'm not going to make it. I used to work with juvenile offenders, and they would say things like, "Well, I'm not going to make it to my 18th birthday," and they just were convinced that none of their friends, or some of their friends, hadn't made it to 18th. So if you don't think you're going to make it to your 18th birthday, and that's your belief system, your behavior will be dictated by that. I'm going to live as much as I can. I'm going to live for the moment. I'm going to get what I want because I'm not going to make it to 18. So if that's your basic belief system, your behavior will reflect that. Yeah.
Um, can I?
Here's another one. Every black man has been to prison.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Every black man has been to prison. Dr. Payne, what
Oh,
prison were you in? I said, I would never been to prison. Oh, come on. Every black man goes to prison. So if that's my uncle went to prison, my grandfather went to prison. So every black man goes to prison. So that's why I'm here. So if that's your belief system, it will be reflected in your reality. Yeah.
Let me jump in if I
Uh-huh.
can, and then I guess we should take some questions. Several years ago, it's probably maybe 20 years now, and I think about it. Rutgers had a program that was designed for young Black men between the ages of 12 to 18 who had been involved in the drug trade, stealing cars, and things like that. And I was conducting the class, and it was interesting because one of the things we came to was the fact that the skill set that you referred to, Helen, earlier. I always told them that you had creativity, imagination, and resilience that a lot of people outside don't necessarily have or recognize. But more particularly, I would explain to them if you know how to steal a car, and at that time they were stealing cars with magnets. And of course, my car was old, so they told me nobody wants your car, Professor Carter. But they because my car is 20 years old. I keep a 20-year-old car. Anyway, so I said, what your talent is the talent that car companies need to hire you guys as consultants to show them how to prevent other people from stealing cars. And of course, that never, when they thought about it, it's like, wow. And then the other thing with the drugs, when I told them that there are people at the time who went to Wharton, Harvard, Yale, all these Ivy League schools to learn what they learned on the streets with bulletproof vests on. not eating a decent meal, and not getting sleep, right? So it's a way to get them to think about things. And then the other part, two quick things. One is the terminology we use. Like I'm actually fighting with the state senator about changing the term juvenile to young people, depending upon your age. If you're 10 to 12, you're a child. If you're 14, and you can speak to that, I'm sure, Dr. Payne, in terms of the language that we use, because that language shapes how we see the world, especially for young people. They walk into a courtroom and everybody's saying juvenile. They're convicted and they haven't even, nobody's charged them. And the other part, it was the transfer and showing them how to transfer their skills that they've acquired on the street when other people had to go to college
Mhm.
and pay a lot of money to figure out what they were able to figure out, just as a way to get them to look at themselves in a different way. And I just really just want to throw that out there. The language, the fact of letting them know that their skill set is very unique, because a lot of people couldn't do it. Couldn't do it with no sleep,
That
bulletproof
goes
vest, and
back
not
to
eating.
that goes back to Dr. Payne's question. What did you say? What's your 7 feet? Because I
Yes.
think
What
we
is
don't see
and when
ourselves
people
for who
don't,
we are.
they need somebody
And
to
the
see it.
inmates are they're just they're a part of the larger
And
population. But go
and the
ahead, Dr.
last the last thing has to do with the music. I met Dr. Payne because there is a book called Who Stole the Soul? The Weaponization of Black Music. And Dr. Payne and I have been in touch since that time. And I was going to ask him in terms of the music, because the music used to be Black folks' superpower because a lot of people couldn't read. And so, obviously people knew it was our superpower and decided it's not going to be our superpower anymore. And so, looking at the impact of this music on young people in terms of some of the things you talked about and describing how they see the world, right? How they see themselves. So if you could speak to that.
The way
Helps a lot.
it works is the music is like taking a pill, an aspirin. Okay, the lyrics are the pill, and the music are the water. It makes it much easier. The rhythm, the beat makes it much easier for the subject to swallow. So they use that against our people. The old writers like William Shakespeare used to write things in what's called, and I hate to sound so academic, but a dactylic hexameter. Boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom. And it would match the heartbeat of the audience while they were
Hmm.
speaking. So that would make it more digestible to the audience. So the rhythm of rap music is on all four beats, you know? Some of the older singers, Sarah Vaughan and Nat King Cole, they would always be on the two and the four beat.
Hmm.
One, two, three, four. But rap music is on all four beats. So it goes right into the subconscious mind. And then you listen to the lyrics. People always ask me, well, what are some of your favorite rap songs? I say some of my favorite rap songs are the ones who support what I'm saying. And the worst one is this group called Cool. It's called Cool G Rap. Okay, and he talks about beating up his girlfriend. You know, don't bother me while I'm whooping on her backside. And he don't say backside, okay? And that's what he talks about, beating on women. There's another one. I saw an old lady, she was big and fat. I hit her in the head with a baseball bat. Things like that. And the kids hear that kind of stuff and they normalize it. And you don't realize it's being fed into your subconscious mind. Let me give you an example. I'm going to begin the sentence and I want one of you to finish it, all right? M&M's melt in your mouth,
Not in
not
your
in
hand
yours. Oh, how did you know that?
because
Okay.
it's been conditioned.
Yes. Choosy mothers choose.
Yeah.
Oh, do you see? It is around you. It's fed to you. It's going to your subconscious mind. What does Arnold Schwarzenegger say in every movie? I'll be back.
I'm
I'll
gonna
be
I'll
get
be
you.
back.
back.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Okay.
What
A
does he
few.
say?
I'll
Yeah,
be
What?
in
back.
every movie he has that's his tagline.
Oh,
I'll be
that's how he
back.
gets the
And I said
sequels.
it to the kids, they all know it. I'll be back, right? Okay, a movie Tom Cruise and he's on the witness stand. All right, and the actor says he says I want the truth. What's the tagline from the movie?
You can't handle the
You
truth.
can't
Yes. Excellent. So
No.
you can't handle the
handle the
truth.
truth.
So all this stuff is going into your subconscious mind. You don't even realize it. Why do you think a 30-minute Super Bowl commercial costs $10 million?
Uh-huh.
Because they know that it's going in there. And so if that works, what do you think is if you're taught every day? And it's the old saying, if you tell a man he's less than man,
Mm-hmm.
you begin to believe it. And
Internalizes it.
he begins to believe it.
Right.
So I see that among the inmates. They believe that they're somehow less. We're not as smart as they are. Oh, yes, you are. You just don't realize it. Linda was talking about that. Innovation. You're doing it and
Yeah.
don't even realize that you're doing it. You
Yeah.
know, I had one guy, he took an old radio apart and made a tattoo machine out of it. I said,
That's
you,
amazing. I
and,
I I
and
was forever flabbergasted by the things that they were doing. But let's talk a little bit about because I remember being a woman working, and I was young and cute and sexy. I was 20
oh
some
God, you were
years
in
old.
trouble. You were in trouble.
I never, you know what? So first of all, let me tell you, when I went to interview at the prison, I had been working in social services in the halfway houses. So this was like a step up. I wanted to be a social worker at the prison, and I went for an interview and they asked me, was I there? I went to an interview for a correction officer. I did not want to be a correction officer. I wanted to be a social worker. And they asked me, are you just trying to get your foot in the door? And sometimes it pays to tell the truth because I said yes. They said, hey, we got an opening. Good for you. So I never had to be, I was never an officer, but I can tell you that every day going in and out of that prison, um, and hearing like they'd open the gate, you'd walk in one gate, they'd close that gate behind you, and then they would open the next gate so that you could walk into the prison. And even knowing that I was going to go home at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or whatever, it's just something that you never got used
You
to.
never got used to
Knowing
it.
that, yeah.
Mm-mm.
So, and I remember the prison road, like they would bring the guys down from North Jersey who, concrete jungle, bring them to South Jersey in the middle of a cornfield. They had no idea where they were. They weren't going to think about escaping. One, because they could see that, it's just
Nowhere to
rednecks.
go.
So, you're going to stand out if you try. Um, and there was a long, winding road that the prison was set back off the road. And the further you went down the road and you looked back, you saw nothing. So it was just a psychological thing. But, so just having that experience. But I have to tell you that as a young woman, working in the prison, I treated the inmates with the respect that I would want to have, and I was never, ever, ever, ever. I mean, it took me a minute. I mean, I might have been nervous at first, but I was never concerned about my safety. As a matter of fact, I felt very strongly that if something had happened in the prison, that they were going to let me know. One guy at some point had invited me to do something to him, and the other inmates were just all over him. Like I had to say, y'all, leave him alone. So there's a code, but even within the prison about, how you're treated. Um, what crime are you in there for?
Exactly. It's a
Yeah,
hierarchy.
they have a code of ethics, right?
Yeah.
So if you're in there doing something to a kid, you're going to do some hard time. It's just
But if
that
you beat up
simple.
a police officer or you did something to a cop, you're anointed the king of the jail, of the jail. So
You're not gonna.
it's a hierarchy in that setting.
Right.
Now you said
Yeah.
something very interesting. It takes a very special person to be able to work inside of that environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a certain strength, but it's the best kept secret in the world because you're safer in there than you are on the street. They don't have a weapon, they don't have a gun, and they're not on drugs. So they have a certain, and they want to get out. So they have a certain code that they go by, and they protect women, especially black women. And you said you were just a young, cute girl.
I didn't think it, but yeah,
Well, you
I was
still are.
20.
Don't worry.
Oh, you're sweet.
I had a new lady psychologist, young, cute lady psychologist, and I was a little worried about her. And I had a man an inmate had come down from a state facility. He had gotten beaten up and abused up there. So he was sleeping on the floor. He wouldn't shower. He wouldn't do anything. And so I would go to see him, and he would just lay on the floor. So she asked, could she go see him? She said yes. She's sitting outside the cell. She looks in the window, and he was unresponsive. He was almost catatonic. And she says to him, and I say, this is not his real name, Mr. Johnson, would you get up and take a shower for me? He says, okay, so it's an advantage to having that eclectic group. I had a black psychologist work for me, a white psychologist, a black female. I hired the first black female. I was the first black male psychologist in the history of the Philadelphia prison system. She was the first black female psychologist, and I knew that she would do well with the women, you know. But she did excellent with the men. The
Right.
guy got up when she asked him to take a shower. He got up and went in the shower. So there's extra little extra power that women can have.
Diversity. Diversity helps.
Yeah.
Before we go to Dr. Green's question, somebody had put in the chats about what is I guess they were talking about the mental health level of, how many inmates have suffered from mental health issues.
Um, 16% of inmates have been diagnosed with SMI, a serious mental health issue. However, I would project that to be higher nationwide because 1955, right, there were 5,500 people in mental health institutions around the country. Okay. By 1992, that dropped to 10,000. Where did they all go?
Yeah.
They went to prison. We're punishing our mental health people. So prisons have become a hybrid of a major correctional institution and a major mental health institution, which is why somebody who is trained in mental health services is that important, is so important. Because you can't treat them like they're like you said, treat them with dignity, treat them with respect because they have a mental health issue.
Right.
Dr. Payne,
Yes.
I I know that, well, it's known that during after the civil rights, really after during chattel slavery, I never say slavery. Slavery with Jewish people, we were property, right? So having said that, that people thought wanting to be free during chattel slavery, we had mental illness, and all the way up to the civil rights movement. Like, how dare you not want to be subjected to this? So, do you see a connection between, how dare you want to be free? You must have mental illness, and then the tag of mental illness for a host of reasons. And then the other thing that may or may not, I'm just throwing it out because Black men, particularly young Black men who were committing suicide, which was not something that was, it was sort of unique in our community for people to committing suicide. So can you speak to that? And then I guess we should take some questions, Helen.
Okay. What you're talking about
Yeah,
is
well, we
called
have we have Dr. Green on here, but
Okay.
no,
go.
doctor.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is called drapetomania. It was a
Right.
phony diagnosis why would a slave run away when we're treating them so well? They got plenty of food and they want to be free. And they diagnosed it as some kind of mental illness that people wanted to be free and wanted to get away because we're taking good care of them. And they just could not conceive of a person that wanted to escape. And the same thing is being transferred today. Like they said that prisons are the new slavery. They get a $1.25 a day for the work that they're doing. So you can bring this man. If you remember during slavery time, the chattel slavery times, um, and during the Great Northern Migration, our people were leaving the South. We had enough of this. We're going to the North. Okay. They put in new laws. If you were walking parallel to a railroad track, you were arrested. If you were walking in groups, you were arrested. If you were going to certain, you were arrested. So but they didn't put them in prison. They put them back on the same plantation where they were working. But now they were inmates. So they worked for nothing. They didn't even do sharecropping. They worked for nothing. So it's a way of maintaining that control and that slavery. So it's the same exact thing by a different name. A
They
1910 newspaper. Yes,
criminalize Black behavior.
yes. There was a newspaper article right before the Jack Johnson fight, and the person wrote that and this, let me see if I can quote it. The colored races of this planet outnumber the whites. They have been kept in subjugation, however, by their belief in their own inferiority. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so us as we have to let our pass information and knowledge on to people to let you know that you are not inferior. You are not less
Right.
intelligent like the media tells you, and you are no longer under the thumb of the people. It's time for us to step up and take the seat on our throne, and that's what I try
Let
to
me
mention.
let me piggyback on that real quick because one thing I used to always say. So first of all, when I worked in the prisons, they were just introducing mandatory minimums. So people literally would come, I don't want, they didn't have anywhere. It was three hots and a cot. They could get through the winter, whatever. So some people would literally get released and
Mm-hmm.
commit a petty crime just to come back
Get
into
back in.
prison because it's 2 degrees outside and I don't have anywhere to sleep. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So, and then you had mandatory minimums come into play, which meant that you're going to do 5 years of this sentence no matter what. You're not going to get good time. You're going to do every day of this time. So you had a different, you know, a different vibe that was happening in the prison. So people weren't trying to, maybe purposely commit a crime to get three hots and a cot. But I remember, and I'm 20 something, and I recognized that this was slavery. And I remember telling
Right.
the inmates, like, stop returning yourselves to bondage, because that's essentially what you were doing. If you thought, I'll just do this, I'll do a year, I'll do 2 years, like, that's your life. Um, and then we can talk more about, because I think people need to really understand how little money people make. I think back then a good salary was $25 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in a
Mm-hmm.
New Jersey state prison, one prison. We made all the license plates for the entire state. We had um, we had the bakery. So for all the state institutions, we made all the baked goods. For what else did we have? Sewing factory. So
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
the orange jumpsuits in the prisons, or the um, coats for the people in the psychiatric wards. We did all of that. And these folks were not making any money. And it was just, and then they went to working out on the street. So now you're picking up trash on the side of the street. It was just crazy. So, and if you're wearing Victoria's Secrets or things of that nature, trust me, if you're
Mm-hmm.
ordering an airline ticket, you're probably, not probably, without you knowing it, often you're talking to an inmate who can do that job while they're in prison, but the same company won't hire them to do the job when they get on the street
Exactly.
because they
Exactly.
got a record. Make it make sense. But anyway, Dr. Green, go
Very
ahead. And
well
then
said.
Gary,
Very
I'm
well
going to
said.
bring you on next, Gary, but go ahead, Dr. Green.
Yeah,
So
so yes,
the
thank
focus
you.
is, oh, I'm sorry. Are you talking to me or are you talking to?
I'm asking a question.
Oh, go ahead. Be my
I'm,
guest.
I'm actually going to follow up with what you said, Helen, but also related question. When you look at the generational trauma, you look at so many young Black men, not young Black men, but young people who are being diagnosed with mental illness. There are so many who are traumatized, many more than we've had before. And you look at the fact that we have single parents who are raising young Black men, and two-parent families where young Black men are still present challenges. What is the message as a psychologist, from your role as a psychologist? What can you say to parents, to those women who are raising young Black men? What message can you give them, and who have children who they know are going through trauma, or who have challenges, or who may have been hooked on drugs accidentally, with the opioids? What can you say to them in terms of where they can turn and what they can do so
There's
that they
a
don't feel helpless?
Okay, there's multiple African American groups. One that I belong to is the Association of Black Psychologists, and I would have them contact them because it's a multitude of resources that we understand our own people. Like when I will go into the cell, when I was a psychologist, the inmate would be shocked that it was me because they're used to a little Caucasian guy with glasses who doesn't understand them. So I came from the same neighborhood that you went to. I went to the same junior high school that you went to, or some of the same time. So I know exactly. So they don't have to even finish the sentence, what it was like in junior high school. When I was in junior high school, you had to fight on the way to school and had to fight on the way home, okay, just to get to school. And so the African American psychologist understands that, so they go right into where the issue is. And a lot of times it's different. And let me kind of explain it to you what it is. It is you have different layers of your personality. Okay, I want you to think of it as four circles. The outer circle is the outer defense system. That's the part of you that you show to people when you're walking down the street. Hello, how are you doing? The superficial side of yourself. The next layer down is the middle defense system. That's this part of you that you show of yourself that you show to friends and family. The next layer down is the inner defense system. That's what you show to somebody that you love. And then all the way inside, that little dark circle that's buried under concrete and it locked away is you. And that's where those issues are coming from. That's where the damage is. So the key is to go in there and find out what's going on. Well, when I do work with black African American males, when I go through those layers, what I often find is rejection by the father, and anger is manifested in other areas from that main point. So where was my dad? Wasn't I good enough? Didn't he like me? That kind of stuff. One person told me that his father was coming to pick him up. He was 60 years old. He said he stood by the window all day long until it got dark. He said, no one will ever hurt me that much again. And that's where a lot of these behaviors are coming from, that internal pain, the pain of being rejected. So the key is not to work on the leaves of the tree and the branches. The key is to make the roots healthy, and the leaves will take care of themselves.
Right.
So the key is for the mom is to work on the roots of this young man. What's going on? Does he feel happy? And there it is again, men. What is the biggest thing about men? And when I'm in a group with men, the worst thing you can say is, I was afraid. I dare not show weakness. One guy said he was afraid. There was an audible gasp in the room. You were afraid, but men are human. But they've been socialized to think that this is what a man is and this is what a man does. So mom has to get that young person around a different set of males, a set of healthy males, so they can have the role models and they can understand what a man is, rather than what I call now internet males. They have this vision of what a man is based on the internet. A man does this, a man doesn't do that. A man doesn't even get in touch with his feelings. It's his beliefs, not his feelings. No, that's the worst thing you can do, because you start having different behaviors when you tell a person. If you ask a man, a group of men, who they are, just a simple word, right? If you ask a group of women, they'll tell you what they feel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm a loving person. A man will tell you what he does.
So you would say to this mother who's having all these problems with her son, or person, they see really negative behavior, or they see them acting out, you would say that they should look for some role models,
Male role
of
model, strong
male
real
role
role model.
models.
Yes.
I,
I'll
I
tell the
just
story.
I just want to, I'm emphasizing about not giving up, because I
Don't give
think there are
up.
too many people, men and women, who give up on their children when they reach the teenage years, and they
But
don't
you
know
all
what
know
to
that,
do.
and you know this, doctor, the prefrontal cortex, the thinking centers of the brain, is not fully formed until age 26. So
Yes.
all that till that time, that person is still growing and evolving. So even if they're doing crazy behaviors, what if Malcolm X had not lived to he was a knucklehead when he was young. He did crazy things. He was pimping and he was selling drugs and he was doing all kind of stuff, but he grew into a great leader. So you can't give up on them when they're 18. That's just the first chapter of the book. You got to look at
Right.
the succeeding chapters,
Yeah.
and you can make some changes, some insights, change the belief system. You'll have a whole different person when they grow
Right.
up.
How do we get that message out?
Um, uh, this is Do you remember the commercial about I think it was called The Message, the Lesson, where the mother was telling her son what to do when the cops pull him over,
Mm-hmm.
put both hands on the steering wheel, turn
Right.
your inside light on, say yes sir, no. So that's how the media is being used against us. So we can use the media to our advantage. Take it, these things that are being used against us, they're not just arbitrary. They're very well thought out.
Mm-hmm.
So we can use the same tactics and techniques to our benefit because they're effective. We were talking about the third grade through prison pipeline. Dr. Jawanzika Jufu said this. He
Mm-hmm.
said that from kindergarten to the end of second grade, Black children are among the highest achievers in the country, but it falls off at third grade.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I said, wait a minute, why is it third grade? Then it was the third grade there, and I went to a seminar in Texas. They were building prison cells based on the attendance and grades of Black children in third grade, predicting that they would be in prison. And in Philadelphia, I got to, they hand me this was years ago. They handed me a perspective. They were building the new Phoenix prison, which was replacing Graterford. And it said the average age of inmates would be between 18 and 24. While they were building the prison, that 18-year-old was 8 years old. So they already had a bed ready for that 8-year-old when he turned 18. So Francis Cress Welsing used to say this: we're playing checkers and they're playing chess. They already have it planned out. So we have to learn the tactics and techniques that are being used against us and use it to our benefit. The music, the planning, 8 years old. And I started doing research. Why is it third grade? What age is a kid in third grade? 8 years old. 8 years old is the age when a kid starts making his own decisions. If you talk to a kid before and you say, who do you want for president? They'll just repeat what their parents said. But at 8 years old, their mindset starts changing. When my teacher said this guy would be a better candidate, they start thinking differently. I like that kind of car. So that's the age where they're most influenced. And so that's why the system uses 8 years old as a way of building prisons and doing things for that. So that's that age. And so we can use those same tactics and techniques for our benefit. Does that make sense to
Let
you?
me let
Right,
me
but
bring
also,
wait,
I'm
wait,
sorry.
let me bring Gary into this
Okay.
conversation.
How are you?
Hi Gary, thank you so much for joining us.
Salutations, everyone. Well, you've touched on so many things. I spent 20 years, 7 months, 25 days, and 11 hours incarcerated. I've been out since April 24th of 2023. And so there's many things I can touch on. What you see in the background, that picture of that little brown boy and the dove coming out of him, it was while incarcerated. I was a choir director, and that was a card that was given to me. I'll come back to that, but I want you to keep that in mind. This little boy with his arms raised free. So my mother, fear was umbilical to me. My mother was a 14-year-old, and by the time she was 16 and a half, she had been married in 2 abusive relationships. Fleeing from one relationship to the next, she ran into the guy that I have his DNA. I am a result of his violation. So I grew up with generational traumas, the screams of my mother, because I was a reflection of this man that had abused her. So needless to say, in the 60s, in these communities where poverty it's a whole nother level. I was a kid that went to school dirty, little skinny guy with no direction, no one to look over me, just afraid of everything, including my shadow, subjected to foster cares. And everyone in authority, they tattooed a new trauma on my being from people that we thought we could turn to. And so I navigated my way through life in fear for the most part. I couldn't say that out loud at one time. So at about 11 years old, I was introduced to martial arts and I became quite proficient. I was a national champion as well as a regional champion. I've done many things from off-Broadway plays, from Dreamgirls. I played CeCe White. I was, again, many championships, but I could never stand in it because the generational trauma that I could never speak out loud because I didn't know the power of vulnerability. And admitting fear, see, I had to mask it with, now I'm the karate guy. But no matter what stage I was on, there was always something empty inside of me because there was never the parent looking to encourage. There were the things that television said about family always excluded me. I wasn't a part of that. I was othered by family members because, my mother was the troubled young lady with all of these children by different men. So we were the lepers of the family. And so the foster care system. So all of these things that attached itself to my being growing up is how I, attempted to navigate through life. Drugs and alcohol were introduced to me because that was a numbing factor that was always around me. So that became one of my choices when pain was just too much. I'll fast forward to my prison. There's so much, but I'll just keep brief. So ultimately, when my mother ascended at the age of 55 due to her disease of alcoholism in 1998, that was the final straw for me, because even in my mother's disease, no matter how I showed up, she loved me the way that she knew how.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
And so I was always her soundboard, because as a child, I would go to bars looking for her, and she was a go-go dancer.
Can I interrupt for a minute?
Yes.
You're doing great. Keep
Mm-hmm.
going.
And so when she'd come home, there would be times I remember as a kid fighting men out of the house. You know, my mother was young and pretty. And in her disease, when she would be throwing up over herself, I was the one that would clean her up. And my mother would say the harshest things to me. And I would always say, "Ma, why do you say that to me?" And she said, "Because you're the strong one, you can take it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't realize till later on during my incarceration, I'm grateful that she had at least a soundboard. It hurt me then, but even in her struggles, she loved God, but she cursed God because of her life, because of what she witnessed in her life. And so in her absence, that's when I really crashed. And I went to prison for things I did and I didn't do, but I was told if I took it to trial, they would start at 56 years. It was a domestic situation. It was bad. But anyway, I ended up in prison. And so during this, and again, I could mask because I was the feared karate guy now. I was known. I had a reputation. I was never a bully. But if you messed with me or someone I love, you had a price to pay. I feared no man. And after reading this passage in the Bible that says, "Fear not he that can harm the body, but fear him that can not only harm the body, but cast your soul to the depths of hell," or something like that, I never feared another man in my life. And so I was known as a guy that just don't mess with me or anyone I love. Very peaceful. But I was also I was Urkel before he was popular. So the guy that got picked on. So fast forward, my breakdown, and when I'm in prison, when I got, now I'm a member of the Baha'i faith, but again, faith, a lot of, prior to that, my experience with religion was one that always had me like, I didn't know if God was for me because of just where I came from. So while by being the choir director, I received this card. Everyone else got cards that were, of the Christmas holiday and sleighs and Santa and all this stuff. And I got this card. And the moment I got this card, it hit me like a ton of bricks that little boy in me had to heal. And
Very
so I
good.
put every effort during my 20 years, 7 months, 25 days, 11 hours incarcerated into not only looking at the trauma, because when you think you address something, there's something beneath that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's this continuous thing of striving through it, but then stepping into it. And Baha'u'llah says, "Noble have I created thee, yet thou hast abased thyself. Rise unto that for which thou was created." And so then I started looking through all the veils of my trauma and pain and said, wait a minute. I always came up short trying to please man because I could never fit in that box. I didn't come from the two-parent families. I didn't graduate from high school. I got my GED later. I was in college, but I didn't fit. I was looking to work. So nothing that man said could I fit in that box. But I could strive to be pleasing unto God. I've always had love in my heart. My mother, the same. She would have 5 cents. She would give away 4.5 cents of that. I would go to her house and kick out 18 people because that was a place they could go and drink and whatever. And so, but when she left this plane of existence, I was done. So then I crashed. So I ended up in prison, and I took every day of my confinement, and this is, you're talking 24/7. You talk about gangs, you talk about systemic racism on a whole nother level. You're a number. You talk about, it's another form of slavery. It's all of these things, and no one expected me to come out on the other side of that because I had a tendency, my reflex, to cross my path. I would defend myself, but the greatest war was always within. So I had to change my heart, and my mind soon followed. I had to dismiss everything that someone said of me and keep feeding what God said of me. And I've been out for, again, since April 24th, 2023. I've since got my peer support certification. I've been all kinds of things, just, striving to give back, working and volunteering at places with post-incarcerated people. And it's still a challenge because they're banking on my return. They don't have a dime. So after 20 years, 7 months, 25 days, 11 hours, they let me out of prison with $368 in my pocket. And I had to pay parole fees the very next day. And I still pay parole fee. I just filed a petition to be released from parole because I'm eligible. I met all the requirements for that. And so I've been working as a peer support on and off in different agencies and still striving to get my footing, but it's designed for me to go back. But I refuse because they don't know what God has brought me through. But it took the healing. It took me to understand the power of vulnerability, that I am not yesterday, and that it was my mindset, my heart set that changed, and I keep striving in my way of loving. I love through it all, but I didn't know what love was before because love was not presented to me in a way. It just was always far removed. But I had to learn myself and love myself, especially the most fragmented, broken part of myself. I could never say before that I was molested as a child. Men can't say that. I can say it and I stand in it. It was a priest, because I called my brother that word. Back in the day, we used to use that word that began with an F, describing a man, that whatever. And the nun said to me, "Where'd you hear that?" She washed my mouth out with soap. Then I had to do a chores as scrubbing the pews, and this white priest, and I could still smell the alcohol in his breath. He called me up to him as I'm scrubbing, and he looked at me and he grabbed me by my testicles and he's squeezing me. And he said, "Where did you learn that word?" And I could smell the alcohol in his breath to this day. It's like yesterday. And I didn't know what was happening then. It wasn't later in life until I realized this man molested me because he was pleasuring himself in that. I couldn't say that in no group of men, especially me, Gary the karate guy. I couldn't say I was on drugs, that I was addicted to cocaine, alcohol, all those numbing factors to numb my pain. There was things, because, we got a mask. We got to always show up in our shiny suits. But I can say it because that was yesterday. I know better now. I move better now, and I love through. But the greatest seed was me learning how to love myself. And it's not for my keeping. It's for me to share with the fragmented souls that feel so far removed from God, so far removed from somebodyness, that I can share these accounts, because we have members in our families that we shun because of whatever choices they make in life. But the deposit for the transformation is a little love. And that's something we'll never run out. I don't have money, but I have an abundance of love and kindness that I share. And so that's what I strive. And it's harder to walk through the space every day and striving. I'm still striving to gain meaningful employment because the doors are not open for me. But that doesn't going to stop me, because what God has continuously brought me through, I give praise and thanks, and I keep moving with my best foot forward. And I just, so there's a lot. You just touched on so many things, but the power in, there were men, to hear little boys and these men, and there's some brilliant minds behind these walls that people lock and throw away, that it just takes a letter, a little small act of kindness or something, because it's something they've never received. Because I couldn't believe it. There were people that loved me when I look back all along, but I couldn't receive it because I was too broken. There were many people that attempted to help me along the way, but didn't understand. I was still going back to a house with no lights, no food, no mother, no nothing. And so I had to be out. I hung in places late hours because it was heat. I went to places because it was a place where I could eat. I was sleeping in the karate school. And that's how I came to know Baha'i faith, because a family kind of extended itself. Someone I was teaching was bringing me hot dogs that I would teach him, getting him ready for his next belt. And I ran to a family that pretty much adopted me. So I'll pause right there, but it was love, but it was poured, and we can't stop loving because we don't know the layers that it has to cut through, because it was a trust thing for me. But what I do now, I trust and rely on God. I trust me. So if I love you and I'm kind to you, what you do with it, it's on you. It doesn't belong to me. But I just choose my spaces, but I strive in love, and I just know that I stand on the shoulders of ancestors. Of everything that's happened to us, we're still here
That's
That's
right.
what I bank on. That's how I
Excellent.
move this life. So I
Excellent.
thank you for your presentation. And I that's my email right there. And I'd love to have more conversation because I want to go back inside of prisons. And not only just that, I've done engagements with the United Way and Goodwill. I do a lot of volunteer work with them to bridge the gaps because we treat people the way we see them.
Mhm.
And that's what happens in society. But again, I want to bridge gaps and just, just serve this population because I know it all too well. And there's so
Gary,
much more to cover, but I'll pause right there. And
Gary,
thank you.
are you maintaining the journal, your whole story,
Yeah,
not
yes,
okay, so you're keeping a journal of everything
yes.
for a potential book that could be used in a criminal justice class.
I'm,
Like,
I'm actually writing a book now, and that's
okay.
another thing. I use the arts as a way of sharing, but it was something that I could never step when you're so broken
Yeah.
that you know you can't receive it fully. And that's what was my thing. And I've had many opportunities. I've done a lot of great things, but never in its fullness until now. But now I step past fear, and whatever God commands me to be, it's going to be. And I'm just going to keep showing up in loving kindness in my faith.
Helen, you have his
That's
information?
Of course I do. Let me
Okay,
just say that
go ahead.
I've known Gary now from these kinds of situations for, I don't know, maybe a year, 2 years.
Yes.
And, I didn't talk to him before today, but when I saw him, I said, can I bring you on? And he said, of course. So, I'm so glad, Gary. Thank you for coming into this space with us today. Thank you for sharing. I want to thank everybody in the audience for sending all the love. The hearts were just off the chain the whole time Gary was speaking. And to see a Black man to be open and to be vulnerable is so refreshing. And it is as a sign for other men that we can do this.
It's a sign of
20
strength.
years, sign of strength,
Vulnerability,
sign of strength.
unlike a lot of people think, is a sign of strength. And I wanted to share something with you, and you may not see this. One of your greatest strengths, Gary, is your vocabulary. One of the most hardest things that I had working with African American men is being able to put their feelings into words. So once you can put your feelings in the words, you can know exactly how you feel. And you were able to do that magnificently today. Take your feelings and verbalize them. We'll say, I'm
Can I jump in
maintaining.
right there? Can I jump in real quick and
Yes,
say,
go ahead.
look, Gary says that he's looking to his next career. Those of you who are on this call, many of you are in situations where you can hire Gary to be a public speaker for events that you're having. I'm soliciting for you right now, Gary. That's what I see. He's a writer, he's a speaker. So take his information, reach out to him. If you can't, you forgot his information, reach out to me. But let's help make Gary be the success that he's supposed to be. But anyway, go ahead, Dr. Payne. I'm sorry.
So that's one of your greatest strengths already. I don't know if you're aware of that, but it's your ability to take your feelings and put them into words. And once you're able to do that, you can label and find out where the issues actually lie. Now, something that you kind of brought up was that you could be vulnerable. And for an African American man in this country, that is absolutely fantastic. I want you to look at something now. Our people came through the door of no return, the Middle Passage, where we were in chains across the ocean, slavery from working from sun up to sundown. We were sharecroppers, which was the slavery by another name, and we survived. So you have the DNA of greatness in you, and the key is to recognize that if they can survive all that, and you can survive what you survive, you will be able to make it. You're able to go after what you want. So the key is to focus. I want you to start thinking scientifically. Okay. Number one, focus on your goal. Just start thinking a different way. We tend to think emotionally.
Mhm.
Yeah, everything's being thrown at me. I can't handle it. No, I want you to change the way you think. Start thinking scientifically. Number one, focus on your goal. What are you trying to achieve specifically? Okay. Second, collect the information, people, and material that you need to achieve the goal. You don't succeed on your own. This America, this all about me. No, you succeed as a group. So people, information, and material that you need to achieve the goal. Put that group together. Okay. Barack Obama became president not because of him. He had a whole group behind him. Okay, so people, information, and material. And the third, the step is the most important. That is to take immediate action. Okay,
Yes.
once you focus on what you're trying to do, once you collect the people, information, and material that you need to achieve the goal, you must take action because your window of opportunity begins to close right away. So you got to go after what you want. Okay, and if you kind of start thinking scientifically, you'll get where you're going. No matter, I mean, I like the fact that you went through so much and you're still here. You're still standing like Maya Angelou and Oprah Winfrey. I'm still here. I'm still, you threw all this stuff at me, but I'm still here, you know? So I really like that. Here's another one. And I hate to sound like a psychologist, right? Have you forgiven mom?
Oh, listen, that was my portal to everything, forgiveness. I forgave the man that violated my mother. Because again, I know God has forgiven me, and that's grace. And so I have to forgive no matter what. When they were nailing Christ, he said, "Forgive them, Father. They know not do
And
no,
that's
not
not
what they
what they
do."
do.
But they
Yeah.
did because they put the order to it. But so to get the power of forgiveness, that's our grace. It's not ours. It unlocks and it frees because that burden of guilt that stops us. It stopped me from showing up in my full because I was the cloak of shame, all of those things. But to know that when I knew that God forgave me, and then I learned how to forgive myself, and then love. And quick, this is a quick piece if I can share. And Penn has been, and I'm again court so-called unlettered. I didn't go through formal training of school or anything, but I'd always loved to read and just dive. And my pen was it kept me free in prison. And one night I turned over, and I'll share that with you also. Something I wrote, kind of autobiography that started my path of writing. But this one piece I wrote was running scared, tried to hide, had to get away from the old life. I used to know way back when. Now I know the story was over before it ever began. The world is spinning, spinning fast. I don't know how much longer I'm going to last. I'll do my best to hang on. I hope it lets me off in a place where I belong. No more troubles to burden me. Even though I'm in this prison, I'm so free. The music plays, my spirit can dance. I'm so grateful I finally got the chance to like me, to know me, to hold me, to sit down with my pains and start to love me. I can't keep living my past story. I won't let yesterday control me. What has happened now is history, and it's up to me to be free. Now there's healing for my soul. Ever since the day love made my heart its home, happy tears are what I cry. I had to lose it all and almost die. And now I walk my head held high. No more crawling, and I look you in the eye. Absent fear, no longer shame. I truly let go of the anchor of life's pain. If you want to remember my mistakes, they will only keep you stuck in my old place. I moved on. My faith is strong. I'm holding on. God forgave me for my sins, and God still loves me. I moved on. My faith is oh so strong. I've forgiven me for my sins, and I finally love me.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Excellent. Do you have any children, Gary?
Yes, I have a daughter, and that was part of it too. And then she was everything. And
Well,
that,
I'm going to share something with you. When you have a horrible childhood, which you hear reflected, you take your greatest weakness and make that your greatest strength.
yes,
I've had people say, "Well, why are you such a good father?" Because my parent was such a bad one.
yeah,
So I knew exactly what not to do. So
yes,
you could take the things that happened to you and it pays off for your daughter.
absolutely.
Yes. So that's how this magnificent device that we have between our ears work. You know,
Yes,
you can take any experience and make it into something positive. So take that and it'll benefit her and it'll
absolutely.
benefit you.
Yes,
Make sense?
yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. But you did very well. It's difficult for men. It's difficult for me to get men to open up, and you just did it readily. So I'm very happy. And being able to show your inside and to show yourself. And a lot of people think that's a vulnerability, that's a weakness, but that's a strength. You know. And your greatest thing you're going to battle is yourself. A lot of people don't realize that. So you're taking on Gary, and you're winning, and I'm glad to see that. Fine job.
Thank you.
Fine job.
And this is the last thing about the
Go
anchor.
ahead.
And so part of the nothingness and nobodiness with me, again, my mother fled the South from this man. I have no name on my birth certificate. It reads blank Ballard. And
Wow.
that's not even my last name. So that was another thing of nothingness that always visited me, that I was
Make that
nobody.
your book title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Make that your book
Book
title.
title.
Yes. Fantastic. That was fantastic, Gary. I wanted to
That
share
was
some.
spontaneous. It was not. Thank you so much, Gary, for sharing. And people are concerned, like, you're recording this. Does he know? Gary, you're aware that this is being recorded, and you're okay with that, right?
Absolutely. It belongs to God and whoever it heals. I know what he brought me through and I share it. There's no shame, there's no nothing. I just pour and I don't, it's from my heart.
We
I
receive.
have a question for all of you. And Gary quoted the Bible. In the Bible, how did Delilah get Samson to tell him where his strength came from? How did she do it? Was her beautiful face? Was it her voluptuous body? No, it was her words, something that Gary's very good at. Her words. And it came to pass that she pressed him daily with her words until his soul became vexed. In other words, she nagged him to death, and he said, "Okay, it's my hair. I can't take anymore." So you're just reflecting the power of words, verbalizing your feelings. Like you said, you couldn't talk about it, what happened to you. But the power of words really is freeing. I'd rather for it to come out as words and tears than as an ulcer or heart problems or high blood pressure. That's why our people in this country have so many health issues because we hold everything in. We're trying to be tough, you know. Black women do it too. You know, I got to be strong. I'm a strong woman. They hold everything in. You know, they're taking care of the family and they're doing this and they're doing that, or they hold it in and their blood pressure goes up and they're having diabetes and all that kind of stuff. They don't verbalize what they're feeling. So what you just did was a great example of saying what's in here and not caring what other people think. Oh, he's being weak. No, he's being strong. He's saying what's on his heart. And it's not manifesting in high blood pressure, is it? or heart problems. No, it's coming out as words and tears. And that's very healthy. So you're doing a great job. And you two ladies, I'm saying the same thing to you. Let it come out as words and tears rather than diabetes and heart issues. Okay? That's the healthy side of it. Make
For
sense?
sure. For sure.
And
Gary,
I
I'm
see
going to keep you on if you don't mind. I'll keep you on screen because I'm sure people are going to have some questions for you. I
good.
think that was just fabulous.
Very good.
Um, yeah. So with that being said, um, does anybody have a specific question? I don't see any hands up. Anything you want to share? I saw Miss Liddell. I know you worked in the Tennessee prison system. I didn't know if you wanted to talk a little bit about that. Was it a male prison or female prisons, maximum security? If you want to share. I don't know. You're muted. I don't think she can unmute. Um,
Helen, this is
okay,
Claudette.
go ahead, Claudia.
That gentleman's story, Gary, has moved me so much. I'm like, wait a minute. Let's go from tears to bliss to joy that he found his breakthrough. But Helen, it also dawned on me that you have this talent for bringing these stories to life. You have the foundation for a publishing company. We don't need to go to somebody else to get his story out there. We got the talent right here with you anchoring this to start it.
Thank you. As he was talking, I was somebody says he's writing. Somebody else was on here, and it's like, why can't you write people's stories? But yeah, thank you for that vote of confidence. I appreciate it.
It is a fact. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thank you. Ms. Liddell, did you want to? You're not unmuted. Can you unmute? There you go.
Well,
Did
thank
you want
God
to?
for your life, Gary. And I am a former prison guard, maximum prison guard.
God bless you.
That was in the years of 2004 to 2007. And I just thank God for your life. And I sincerely mean that, because you touched on some things. And I tell you, I can't go into a lot of things that I witnessed, but I was myself when I was there, and I was protected. I was a young person, only Black female in such a well, let's just say, all I knew was there were Black men there, and who were over them were not for them. And I saw some things that a young person still can't get over. But I thank God for your life, and I sincerely mean that. And when we go in there, they tell you not to go and look on the computer so that you don't form an opinion about someone you don't know. But I went in there like, treat them the way that I want to be treated, and I was respected. And when things did go wrong there, those men protected me, and that's been many, many years. And again, like I said, you have a story, and you're amongst musicians as well. There's several of us that are online that we all talked about this, and because I was a former prison guard, nobody hold that against me. I had to work,
Yes.
but I would tell any woman that it's not a job for a woman. But I was there, and I was in the mental capacity. I moved on to special needs, and there is a community there, and people come together. Now, if you was on my watch on Sundays, we had church up in there.
Sure. Yes,
You know what I
indeed.
mean? But again, I thank God for your life, and thank you for your stories. And we are waiting for that book. Keep your head up. Thank you for being a
Yes.
strong Black man and sharing your story.
And tell it to people. Tell it to young people.
We got the music. We got the music for it.
Yeah.
We all musicians and singers. Okay, we can make this happen. I even sang in there.
Okay.
We had church on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's it.
We can
Yeah.
set your words to music if you like to.
Oh,
So
definitely.
That's my information. I'll actually put my number in the chat too.
Yes.
thank
I
you.
put it out there too, Gary. I didn't put your number, but I put the your email out there.
Okay.
And you know, Miss Liddell, that was exactly my situation when I worked at the prison. I remember you know, I was in social services, so we had inmate aides. So, you know, an inmate would be assigned to us, and they called me at home. So they knew I had a good rapport with the inmates, and they called me at home. I don't know, it was a Saturday morning or whatever. Did I know that so and so and so and so that he had escaped, and had he told me about it? Actually, his name was George Rivera. There's a million George Riveras. And I never thought they were talking about my clerk, because we had a really crazy, wild George Rivera from Kansas, and I could see him escaping. But actually it was my inmate clerk. And I'm sure he wanted to tell me goodbye, but he couldn't. But I say that to say that I had such a rapport with the inmates that and they knew it. This administration knew it, and they called like, "Did you know he was escaping?" And no, he didn't tell me, because it was, you know, he would have put me in a situation where I would have had to do something. But you know, I do the right thing. But yeah, it's like how you treat people. How do you want to be treated at the end of the day? And but for the grace of God, honestly, there go any one of us. Any one of us, particularly now in this situation where they're just picking people up for just whatever. So, and as Gary said, we have people in our families, and we don't, you know, we hold things against them, or we shun them or whatever. And I mean, look, I don't judge nobody's family, because everybody do what they got to do, but you know, we got to think outside the box sometime, and you know, give mercy to the homeless person, because that could be you. Give
Yes.
mercy to the person
Yes.
who,
Yeah.
you know, whatever the situation is, just recognize that. But for the grace of God, there go I.
And the things that you say, especially like you people have worked in the prison. My wife and I were going to, and this will let you know how long ago, it was a Luther Vandross concert. Okay, so we decided not to drive, and we got on the subway. And guess who was on the subway? My inmates. I was like a miniature celebrity. Dr. Payne, Dr. Payne. That they were all over the subway. And they reminded me of stuff I had said to them while they were inside. You told me I could make it. You told me I could do it. You told me I was going to be somebody. I want to make you want to shake my hand. Just those positive little words meant a lot to them. So when you talk to people, like you said, the positivity comes across and they pick it up right away. So it's very important how you treat that homeless person, how you treat that person that's down in their luck. Those little things mean a lot. So it's very important. And you make an excellent point.
I'm glad, Dr. Payne, that you made the comparison to the vulnerability of Gary as a Black man to Black women. Because, we're stuck on this strong Black woman thing, and we can't be vulnerable either. And that's
Mm-mm.
nonsense. We
Well,
internalize,
what
pain
kind of
and
car is
shame
that?
that is not ours, right? So I was glad you touched on that.
The only other thing is
Thank you,
this.
Miss Liddell. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes,
You
ma'am.
say yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I think it's your first time here, and I hope that you will come again.
It won't be
How
my last.
how? I'm sorry.
It won't be my last.
How'd
The
you
hell
hear
of a
about
Porsche.
it? How'd you hear about us?
I got
Uh,
a Porsche like that.
one of our singers.
One of your
I'm
people that's on,
One of the people that
one
are
of
on
the
there.
guests that's online here,
Yes. She's a famous
Mary.
singer.
You know Mary.
Mary Cross. She does the Phyllis Hyman. That's why I
I
was
know
letting you
Mary.
know.
She's
Mhm.
where's Mary? Is Mary
On
still
here.
on here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
I
on
know.
here.
Hi,
Mary,
Miss
make us
Mary.
that one.
Mary and I are family. I don't see her though. Is she gone?
She was
I
on here.
think she's not on camera, but she's here.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
she was
hey,
definitely here. So yeah. So thank you, Miss Liddell.
that was a former
Linda,
Yes.
Dr. Payne. I don't know if you guys have some final words that you want to share or
No, I mean, other than, I teach criminal justice at Essex County College, prison subcultures, corrections, all of them. And as a matter of fact, I have a class tomorrow virtually. And Gary, if you don't mind, I was going to ask Helen if she could send this because I want to send it to my students, the whole program to send to my students as required watching visual. Um, that I think is important that they hear that. And I have students who are Spanish speaking, Italian, and Black, and I think everybody needs to know the information that we covered here. And I know people who have sons. I know males that have sons that need to hear you, and I know males that need to hear you say what you said. And think about that as that's a consulting gig, helping guys learn. As a matter of fact, just real quick, a couple of maybe 10 years ago, I was facilitating a panel. It was by a white football player who was looking at this whole concept of males, Dr. Payne, in America, because what we do in this country is contrary to our culture from the African continent. I mean, there you were talking about your mother and some of the things that happened to you because in a capitalist system you have a hierarchy. Somebody's got to be hired and have more power. And it's perpetuated through football and sports and a host of other things. It's perpetuated, so it makes it difficult for people to come out of it. And there were two. There was the football player actually looked at some of the scenarios. One was a young white male who had, they said he had feminine qualities because of the way he moved his hand. And there was a Spanish speaking person, but the one I remember was a young Black man who was the oldest of his brothers and sisters taking care of them. And he felt he had to be tough. And what was happening as a result of this conversation, he found out he didn't have to be tough. But what was even more interesting that his friends in the room with him, when he started crying, his friends hugged him. So it wasn't just him who benefited from it. It was his friends hearing him go through that process, like what you're saying. They're Black males who need to hear this, right? They need to know that vulnerability is strength. And I think, from a cultural point of view, and Dr. Payne, you said something about this. We need to go back and look at our culture because our answers are there. And we've taken on the culture that's against our interests. There's a young man out of Hampton University who was doing this segment on how to decolonize the Black mind because what we're experiencing is part of our colonization, taking on a culture that's not ours, forced to take on a culture that's not ours. And 2026 is still continuing to do the damage, right? That it was meant to do to get the outcomes, Dr. Payne, the outcomes of making sure that we're profitable still in 2026, although through the prison system. So, I said a lot of stuff I always do, and I say it real quickly, but I'm definitely, want to use this in my class. Helen, can you get it to me before tomorrow or by tomorrow?
Linda, I'll try.
Okay, work your magic, your
But
magic stuff.
but wait, I know I said we were signing off, but I can't do this. There are brothers on this call who I want to bring on screen and ask you to please give your brother some love. Merton Simpson, you turned on your camera. I'm bringing you on. Mike Smith, can I bring you on screen? Mike? Carl, can I bring you on screen? Y'all don't have to come on screen. Just give your brother some love.
No, I've been
However
sending
you want.
hearts to. I've been listening. I teach during the summers in the prisons, college. Everything that the professor's been saying and the brother been saying, they're accurate. And it's very uplifting and things of that nature. Sometimes I just listen. I'm a professor myself. I talk too much already. So gotta let some other people talk, you know? So y'all doing the right thing. The very
I just
nice
know.
program. Yeah, that brother Gary, yeah, definitely, man. You got your own business. Stay strong. No, the brothers at it's called. They changed the name to East Jersey, but Rawway. I work at Rawway during the summer. I mean, I know what's going on. So good work, good work. It's
Martin,
snowing
did you
out
want
here, so I'm not in the position. I've been outside, just don't. I've been shoveling back and forth. I'm not in a position to show myself. I'm in
Oh,
the
that's
Northeast.
okay.
All
That's all right.
right,
I just
all
wanted,
right,
I mean,
yeah.
there are
Keep on
some men.
going. Y'all doing the right thing. All right, peace.
Yeah. Martin,
Oh yeah,
I'm
well,
putting you on the spot.
no problem. I just want to congratulate the brother for moving himself to a higher vibration. I think one of the, in the decolonization of our mind, we many of us have been socialized into the
Doug, my
Orthodox
internet's not working on
Christian
this
doctrine.
tablet. What do I need to do?
Claudette, you need to mute.
Tablet.
Keep going.
But I would encourage people to question the King James Version of the Bible and look towards the Gnostic version. And I think you will find that although there's this great adherence to the words of Jesus, the words that we're presented with are selective in the King James Version, which should be an oxymoron if you think about it. But I encourage people to look at the Gnostic Gospels, the Ethiopian Bible, the Book of Enoch, the Gospel of Mary. And I think based on your experience, it will open your mind because they're words of Christ that they consciously kept out, that will make more sense to you.
Thank you. Mike, can I get you? I don't know if Mike is here. Mike Smith. Maybe he's gone already. But anyway, I just wanted Gary to feel the love from his brothers. So,
I feel it
so I
in the
appreciate that.
space, so I thank you. That's the piece of where just safe. I just share and pour because this is a safe space, and it's what's needed. It doesn't belong to me. It's ours. It's a collective. So I'm very grateful and humbled.
Yes, very good.
Ms. Higgy, Ms.
Dr.
Higgy,
Payne. Oh,
this is,
yes.
hey, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
That's okay, Mike.
To Gary, I am so proud of you. I'm in my 75th year, and you are doing the things that I wish I could have done early on for our community. I'm rushing to get those things done now so that we can help other brothers to do what you have done and to give you the kind of support that they need. I got your email address and I'll be reaching out in the future. Helen knows that I'm a very active person and your voice needs to be elevated. And I'll do my part to make that happen. Thank you so much, Gary, for your testimony.
Thank you all. Thank you. All praise to God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Payne, I'm sorry. You got the last words here. Unless somebody just has something pressing that you want to say before, because I don't want to keep anybody longer than we have to here. We're pushing on 6 o'clock. So does anybody have anything pressing? I'm trying to scan the chats. And I can't grab everything, but if you have something that you're just pressing to say, this is your time. If not, we'll go ahead and give the floor to the closing remarks to Dr. Payne.
Miss Higley, when are we
Just
going to
make
get
sure
a
you
copy
send
of
the
this?
recording to everybody.
Yeah, when are
Okay,
we going
okay.
to
Oh
get the
man, they're
recording?
all over me. Oh
I
gosh.
like that.
So I will have to commit to getting it out tonight, it sounds like. I'll get it out tonight.
Great.
I'll send it to everybody on this. Even if I don't have all the stuff, I'll just send it out as it is
Yeah,
tonight.
send it
And you
raw.
all,
Send it raw.
I'll
Thank you.
send it raw. Okay.
Linda, I,
Yes.
since you're still at the college, Gary would be someone, I think that would be a wonderful presentation during Black History Month
Yeah.
through Appeal, the Urban Institute, not the
Uh,
Urban Institute, the Africana Institute.
yeah, he actually is having Ray Brown's son coming. Ray Brown was like a really light-skinned black person
You
who,
know I know who Ray
yeah,
Brown is.
not you, but
Yeah,
everybody else. Yeah. But
right.
his son is coming. But anyway, I actually work with people who created a reentry program while they were in prison. And I definitely contact you because it'll be helpful for you to talk to the men in this room, in this particular room. So I'm definitely going to, and Helen can send you my information.
Okay.
And then
Right,
call
but
me like
also,
before Mission Impossible. Okay.
right, but also with Akil has funding for
Yeah.
speakers,
Right.
right?
And I'm gonna talk to Akil and Dr. Bachi to see if he can come in and speak. It doesn't have to be Black History Month. Black History is every day,
Yes.
Correct,
right?
right,
So I'll
correct,
talk to Akil about bringing him in soon.
right.
But the
So they
other
can
thing
get
is to talk
paid.
to these guys because they have a lot of hookup and and I think it'll be very helpful. One of them was one of my former students. I did the paralegal program. So everybody came out in the area, came to see me. So, and they, hey, because they are paralegals, they just happen to be, and they didn't go to school, but they figure out and they win a lot of cases. Matter of fact, there's one who's actually training public defenders on how to assist people who are in prison, who knows their facts better than them.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'll put you in touch with Dame and also Al Tariq and Chino.
And
Definitely.
All right.
Akil,
Thanks,
and
Linda.
Akil.
We need to wrap this up,
I
y'all.
know. Dr.
We're
Payne,
going to give
Okay.
Dr. Payne the
I
closing words, and I'm dropping in the chat again. Donations. Everybody loves these programs. Drop me some love, okay, so I can continue to do this. So
I, I
go
want
ahead,
to end
Dr.
with
Payne.
a prop. Okay.
Oh,
Anybody recognize this?
yeah,
The
409 carpet cleaner.
409 spray cleaner, okay? But the real name was called Formula 409. Now, why was it called Formula 409? Because 408 times the creators failed and they didn't give up. They kept going till the 409th formula finally worked. And it became $1 billion seller. Clorox company bought it. So the key is don't give up. Keep going after what you want. Gary, the recidivism rate is 75% for prison. Don't let them draw you back in. You're doing the right thing. If you got to do it 408 times until you get to 409, go after it. And that's for everybody else that's listening too.
absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. On that note, I'm going to take everybody off of camp. You all can come off mute and we can do our farewells.
Thank you,
Um,
Dr. Carlton Payne. I'm so happy that you came into my life.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You've been a treasure.
been a
Yeah,
great time.
really great.
Yeah, and we'll have you back again, Dr. Payne, of course.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
he's
you.
my therapist. Did I tell you?
I
We
can
all
see
need
that.
one.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Right.
I can see
I'm
that.
glad this snowy day made it
All
possible for
right.
me to be here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another wonderful Sunday. Thank you all for coming. Thanks to Dr. Payne, Gary, my spontaneous guest. Thank you so much. Linda, co-host whenever I asked her to come on board. So I appreciate that. Everybody in the audience, thank you all for coming. And what do we say?
When
It's been
Black
another
lives
wonderful
matter,
Sunday.
amazing things
Amazing
happen.
Wait,
things
y'all,
happen.
wait.
That was so uniform.
I know. When Black
Amen.
women gather,
Please write it in there.
Amazing things happen.
Yeah.
Amazing things
and
happen.
thank you for another amazing Sunday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much love.
Thank you. Thank
Bless.
you.
God bless everyone.
Excellent program.
Take care,
That
Gary.
was funny.
Take care.
Very good.
I'm going to stop recording so we can talk for a moment.